You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. It is us back here once again, and we have a very special episode because not only are we finally catching up with the end of Skeleton Crew, we're going to be talking about the last two episodes of Skeleton Crew a little bit after they happened, but we're still talking about them, but also, for once, we timed our planned recording of these episodes perfectly because we were going to record tonight. And what drops in the morning is the Andor Season 2 trailer. So we're going to be talking about that as well as we look forward to April 22nd for the premiere of Andor Season 2. It is us, Andrew and Donovan, back here once again. It's been a couple weeks. I have been extremely busy the last couple weeks. Who knew that the beginning of the year would be so busy? But we are back here, and we're ready to talk about Star Wars once again.
Indeed.
So I want to know what your reactions were to, going online and seeing, because the first thing I saw was the Andor poster, which looks really, really sick. And it's just like Cassian's face, and it just looks super duper cool. And then 2 minutes later, I check Instagram, and what do you know? The trailer's up, and I mean, there's the poster right there.
Sweet, man.
And they just went all in on the critical praise of season one in this trailer. Like, Alex of Star Wars Explained just described it as like trying to get the widest audience possible for this season, which is like, oh, the critical darling show, performances that are Emmy worthy, exhilarating drama, a show like you've never seen before, like all these like quotes, and I just thought the trailer set the mood incredibly for the season that we have coming. It was a bit different compared to like the dread and the somber tone of a lot of the season one marketing. This is just like, fuck yeah, the revolution has begun, and it was really sweet.
It was not at all what I was expecting for a season 2 trailer of Andor. Like, I was expecting more of like what you said with the season 1 trailer, like dread, ominous overtones, like, desperate feeling of like rebels straining under the weight of the Empire.
But Nicholas Bertel score.
Yeah, like it's just that's score, man. I can't wait to hear like what he's cooked up for season 2. But there was a real sense of exhilaration and forward momentum in that trailer, and there's weirdly a sense of euphoria present in there. And I think, like you said about the reviews and stuff, it's possible that Lucasfilm didn't realize, or Disney didn't realize, back in 2022 how much of a hit they had on their hands with this. It was releasing alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi the same year. That was the one that was getting perhaps more attention at the time because, obviously, like prequel actor coming back to fight the iconic Star Wars villain. But, Andor did so well. It was consistently getting great reviews. The fandom really enjoyed it. And this time they know they've got like a real surefire hit. And I think it shows the confidence that they have. In season 2, the exhilaration that they're putting behind, because we got so much cool stuff in the trailer as well. We get like Bix and Cassian like walking away together like they're partners in crime. We got Mon Mothma's divorce party, which looks great.
The dance party.
I love that she's dancing. I love that she's like letting loose and dancing. It's like we love to see it. Poor Mon.
Maybe my favorite part of the whole trailer. I mean, that's up there, but that shot of Cassian and Bix walking away and then the explosion, and then you cut to Krennic watching over the Death Star. And like, we knew
so cool.
Ben Mendelsohn was coming back already. I think they confirmed that either before Celebration last year or at Celebration London. But like getting to see the little like snicker and then hearing his voice again as he's looking over the Death Star, I was like, oh, heck yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
I'm so happy he's back.
I'm
he's such
so
a great
happy.
villain.
So
he's Ben Mendelsohn's so good at playing those kind of like bristling with rage villains who have like bristling rage under the surface. It's why he was, he was a good antagonist for Ready Player One. I liked also that he sort of played against type in Captain Marvel, but he's so good in as Krennic in Rogue One. You almost feel empathy. He's the first like Imperial officer in a way that you feel a sense of empathy towards, almost because of the fact that he essentially has what he feels is his life's work, even while he is exploiting people to get completely plagiarized from him by Tarkin of all people, which just, we stand here and it's my achievement, not yours. It's so good. Like the way he just spits the line out. It's so good. I'm so happy to see him.
To see him in this season, and like the potential interactions with Dedra and also Cyril
I want to see him have a queen off with Dedra in the ISB meeting room. Please give it to us, Lucasfilm.
I thought this trailer was very smart in the way it teased a lot of the characters. Like we only got one shot of Cyril, we only got one shot of Dedra, one shot of Luthen, and then we got to see a bit more of Saw Gerrera as he looks a bit more towards his Rogue One look, and he's got a great line at the end of the trailer. So obviously I had to celebrate Andor this episode. I got my Aldani shirt on, Visit the Eye, Death of Banana. And then I also have, of course, Neil Nation. Wonderful.
Neil Nation, I had to bust this out for the final recap, of course.
I also have, just took this out of the package, the Season 2 Black Series of Cassian. And
that is so cool.
Gotta have Bix. So I was finally like, you know what? I've had this shelf built for a couple months now. I might as well start putting stuff together. So maybe next episode, if I have a further update, I will update everyone on how the shelf is going as we go towards this new journey. I like that we finally got, like, the last shot we really had was that thing, that image that's been circulating the last couple months of Cassian just in the nice clothes with the slick back hair and the smirk. Like, that's how they end it. And I was just like, that's just a great way to end things. I also like, it looks like there's a couple shots on the Yavin 4 base throughout here. Because we know that this is going to directly lead into Rogue One. We also have K2SO showing up in the trailer a couple times. The one thing I do want to talk about is they released on StarWars.com after this trailer dropped, an interview come out with Tony Gilroy. And they talked about the release model for this season. And we knew that every 3 episodes was going to essentially be a year going by as we get into Rogue One. Every 3 episodes was going to be a year in Cassian's life. And the last 3 would lead directly into Rogue One. What we didn't know is each 3-episode arc is basically going to premiere every week. So we're going to get 3 episodes every week for 4 weeks leading to the end of the season. I don't like this. I'm going to be completely honest with you. We had that for the premiere of Andor last season. We're actually going up on 2.5 years, which is crazy. Where the first 3 episodes premiered together, and I thought that worked for those 3 episodes. I don't like, if Tony Gilroy is the one that wants this to happen, I trust him. He's earned my trust. However, this just, to me, feeds into what I've been complaining about and upset about with how Disney Plus has released a lot of these shows. You look at Kenobi, for example. A show like that should have been the event of the summer, having the rematch of the century. But because it was only 6 episodes, and because those first 3 came out within 4 days of each other, it really only had like 3 weeks as like the big discussed show. And then it just kind of disappeared after that. If you have these episodes come out in batches of 3, I'm worried they're going to get lost in the shuffle a little bit, and certain episodes won't get the discussion that they might deserve if we're going to be talking about 2 other episodes that same week. And also, selfishly, the fact that means that we're going to have to, for 4 weeks, talk about 3 episodes every single week. Those are going to be some long episodes here on For the Republic. But We'll figure it out.
Monster size. I'm gonna respectfully disagree in a sense, because at first I had a similar reaction of like, yeah, this is like, I would have liked week to week kind of stuff, but I do wonder if that is like, I do obviously feel like that's an attempt to obviously boost the ratings, because the show did really well in terms of ratings. It just didn't do like Mandalorian numbers. And I mean, my brother and I both watched like Star Wars. I watched Andor ahead of him, and he when we talked about this like just before going on air, he said, he felt it was easier for him to watch the show like in like chunks when there were like multiple episodes. Like, he felt like he kind of put off watching the show when it was just like episode to episode, because of the more leisurely pace of stuff. Like he said, knowing that I've got the next episode in like the arc kind of encourages me to kind of watch them all together. So maybe that is the kind of mindset that they're going off of. Like, if we release these in chunks, that these arcs in a way, almost like these mini movies, then people will watch them in like bigger increments. And I guess maybe because they're banking on it being such a critical darling, it's going to get shared around a lot. Word of mouth is going to spread, and it's just going to have these massive, like, they'll get much more bang for their buck in terms of viewership over those 4 weeks because of just how good the stories are, hopefully. But
viewership wise, I think it's going to do great, and I think that's going to help it. I just think, like, you look at a lot of the recent things. Take, for example, because I just finished it. I just finished Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man last night. The release model for that show was so weird. It was like 2 episodes, then 3 episodes, then 2 episodes, then 3 episodes in a week. And it's just like, because of that,
that is weird.
I feel like I didn't see much discussion of it at all on my timeline, when it was like, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed that show. So when you like look at Disney Plus being like, why aren't our shows doing like huge numbers? And it's just like,
don't get me started.
Now, I do think, I think the way that you described it earlier of like how confident they feel in this show, I think is just it encapsulates the last year or so of Lucasfilm, because you could tell going in to The Acolyte that they thought they had a surefire smash hit on their hands.
Yeah.
And you can even tell now, like, we're 6 or 7 months removed from the cancellation, and you're still seeing like almost every month on Star Wars Insider and stuff, just like interviews and stuff. So you can, they probably had this like built up in advance of like, oh, this is going to be a big hit. And
well, they've got a presence at Celebration, haven't they? Like
Manny Jacinto's there, Japan. And then
got those awesome, beautiful
badges
of artwork.
Beautiful. But like for Skeleton Crew, when that came out, I felt like they were a bit more reserved and they didn't know what kind of thing they had on it, somewhat because of The Acolyte underperforming viewership-wise, but also just like you felt like they weren't fully confident in that show. And then it ended up being a surprise, like, oh my God, this is a really, really good series, and a bunch where people started checking it out. With Andor, I feel like we're finally back to full circle of, okay, now we're confident again. Like we had that boost for, like, we got a little upset. We had that big boost, and now we're back. And I am very excited to see what we have. And it's also just like, there's so many characters that I've missed. Like, again, I gotta bring up Bix. Like seeing her in the trailer again, and just having her be like as active as she is in the trailer on these missions and everything, compared to where we last saw her tortured and shit. I'm just like, oh, thank God you're safe. And then just seeing
so like good
Clea in different scenarios too, and like even the minor characters, and getting to see these different planets. Do you think I'm forgetting the name of it, but Star Wars Rebels, Mon Mothma talks about that
the Gorman Massacre.
The Gorman Massacre. Do you think we're going to see that play out in this season?
I do think we are going to see it, because obviously part of the series is from what we've seen from behind the scenes, like on set photos and stuff. there's part of the series is going to involve Andor, like Cassian helping Mon Mothma to get off Coruscant, because we obviously saw the latter half of her escape from Coruscant in Star Wars Rebels, but she actually had to get off the planet first, and we're going to see that with Cassian, which is fun because it's like they never got much interaction in Rogue One, or they didn't interact at all in season 1, so that's going to be a very kind of like neat intersection between those characters. But I do think we will see the
goal if slick back hair, smiling Cassian, if that's in the same scene as Mon Mothma's divorce party, as we worded it.
It looked a bit but like her apartment, to be honest. So like maybe he's already there. But like I think we will see the Gorman massacre. I don't think Tony Gilroy will shy away from an event like that. And it's kind of like he's been pretty consistent with seeding it in the narrative so far. And as we saw in season 1, he's perfectly willing to kind of like paper over like previous continuity if it serves the story, like with the whole origin for Cassian originally, and working in the reference of like the planet that he was supposed to be from before. This I think there's a strong bet we'll see that play out. I think.
Yeah, I think I would not be surprised if that's one of the big arcs this season.
There's those stormtroopers. Sorry.
Again. There is stormtroopers.
There's those stormtroopers with the broken down armor. So maybe that is set on Gorman, and we're gonna see like some stormtroopers who just like get pushed too far or whatever, and just commit like just an awful act, like the massacre basically. So I think there's a strong chance we'll see that play out.
Do you think we're gonna see Perrin slowly perish in this season?
I mean, quick, slow, anyway is good for me. I
hope
hate that dude.
I hate that dude.
It's like we were served too early with Tim. Like Tim got taken out really early, so we were like served in that sense. Perrin, we've had to like kind of put up with him for like a while, so I could see him either taking the fall for like Mon's like sort of scheme of like getting the money to the rebellion. Maybe that happens, but. We've also got like their daughter getting married off, because I'm pretty certain that like the shot of Krennic, I think he's talking to Mon Mothma in that scene, which is really cool. Him interacting potentially with like the secret rebel leader, and he doesn't know it. So we're gonna see like the whole thing play out with Mon Mothma's daughter, which I was genuinely kind of invested in. It's so interesting that we've had so much time spent with the character of Mon Mothma in the background, and we've never really, Andor gave us that first real look at like what her personal life was like in a way that nothing else ever had. So it's be interesting to see how that all winds up happening.
See how that plays out, and then just I can't wait. Our dude Brasso is going to be coming back.
He's got a beard.
The whole crew. Melcy was in a couple shots. It's just like the whole crew's coming back.
They got those Ferrix, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it
in
was
the trailer.
Ferrix. And then we got a couple really great looking shots of Cassian flying some TIE fighter model. I can't wait, man. This show is going to be great. So obviously we will be here at the end of April covering season 2 of Andor as it airs in these 3 episode batches. It's going to be fun. I hate the fact that this is it. Like we have these 4 weeks, and then that's it. And then we're gonna have to do a therapy. Well, not therapy, but like a reverse therapy watch of Rogue One. Like imagine therapy if it makes you feel worse. That's what we're gonna have to do afterwards.
Imagine if like the last thing that we see in that show is like a surprise Felicity Jones cameo, and
I think it's happening. I don't know if it's gonna be the last thing. But I think Jin is showing up in this season at some point. Also, shout out Felicity Jones. This time next week may be a Academy Award winner. Who knows?
We'll see. It's crazy this award season.
Crazy. I haven't seen it yet, but anything but Amelia Perez. I haven't seen it yet, and I already know I don't want it.
I mean. I haven't watched the Brutalist. I haven't watched Conclave. I've seen Anora, which I really liked. Mikey Madison was fantastic. And obviously Wicked. We have both seen Wicked. So
everything but Amelia Perez and I'm Still Here I have seen. And I want anything but Amelia Perez to win. I will be fine with anything, man.
It was very amusing to like watch the discourse around that movie play out. I will just say
I'm
that.
gonna force myself to watch it before the Oscars, but I'm not gonna enjoy it. I love Zoe Saldana, but like everything I've heard and everything I've seen the director and the lead actress say, it's just like,
Ooh.
awesome. We finally have a trans actress nominated for an Oscar. And then everything about the movie and the actors came out, and it's just like, God damn it. You had one job.
It's that moment from The Matrix with Switch. Not like this. Not like this.
Cassian Andor will find us and he will save us.
Yes, he will. Wise words from our girl Bix.
Exactly. But another thing that Cassian might save is a little segment we have here called
Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
Jedi Archives. This is essentially, if you're new here, our podcast Hall of Fame. What we do each week is we nominate something Star Wars related to join our Jedi Archives. And you, that's right, you, the viewers, get to vote and decide what each week's newest inductee into the archives is. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. So Padme won last episode. Did not listen or did not watch. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was pretty lopsided in the favor of Padme. I am never nominating Slapball again. But as our most recent winner of the archives, what do you have in store this week?
So I had like a few different like nominations like planned for this, but my nomination this week is pretty recent actually, since we were just talking about awards season. The BAFTAs recently came around over in my country. I got to see Huyang himself, David Tennant, do a little bit of like the musical performance, performing his favorite song. But my nomination for this week is going to be Warwick Davis, or
yes.
if you've watched the original Harry Potter Honest trailer, Warwick Davis, because he was awarded at the BAFTAs this year, the BAFTA Fellowship Award, which was their version of the Lifetime Achievement Award. And, it was so lovely to see him kind of get recognized for his work. He's been such a huge presence in like the industry, since he first appeared in Return of the Jedi. He's had that special relationship with Star Wars because, he got to live what a lot of us dreamed about as kids, like getting to be in Star Wars and play an pivotal character in the form of like Wicket W. Warwick. And there was a lovely film that they played just before giving him his speech. We saw George Lucas speak so highly of Warwick, and Ron Howard, who obviously directed Willow and Solo. It's great. And I love that Lucasfilm has continued their relationship with him. Like they've in the new era of Star Wars, he has been in pretty much pretty much all of the movies, from going from like Force Awakens to like Rogue One, Solo. He's great. And they brought it all full circle in Rise of Skywalker, having him play Wicket again. And I believe it was his son. I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure his son played Wicket's son in that sequence. But I'll need to obviously double check that. But yeah, it was it really like filled the heart to see him just get so much love from his acting peers, and just all that he's done to like further the visibility of like shorter actors in the industry. It's amazing. So yeah, he's an absolute gem in the Star Wars like community. We love him, and he's my nominee for this week's episode of the Archives.
One of my favorite memories as a Star Wars fan, jumping off Warwick Davis, is when I went to my first celebration 8 years ago at this point. Jesus Christ.
Holy shit.
He was the host of the majority of the panels.
Oh my God.
And that was just great. Like he would come out on the Segway every time with the disco Star Wars theme playing.
Oh my God.
And he was just a great master of ceremonies. He brought that energy, and it was just like experiencing that Star Wars fandom in a way I've never experienced before at a celebration was just like, when I think of that celebration, I think of Warwick Davis. So it's just like, I love the dude. I'm glad that he's still in so much. I love that they even put him in Rebels as Rook, and that he came back for Tales of the Empire. So I just love that they continue giving him roles. And when I was at that celebration, he was actually talking about that character at the Rebels Season 4 panel and hinting at it and like talking about the character. And I just thought it was I just love the dude, which is why I hate the fact that I have to do this. But I got to nominate Bix this week.
Oh,
It's just I need to win, and also it's
oh,
just
you're
like,
coming to play this
I was
week,
thinking
dude.
like I could go for. I was like, can I think of something related to the Spider-Man show that's an MCU connection? Like I'm really grasping at straws here, and it's just, I could go something related to the Skeleton Crew episodes.
Well, I mean,
but
Tom Holland's brother was in like an episode of Mando, but I'm not sure that counts.
I don't know if that counts. I'm not gonna make that joke. But I'm gonna instead nominate Bix because I connected with the characters so much in season one.
Yeah.
I love her so much, and just like I said, that watching her go through the Imperial torture was one of the most like brutal things I've ever witnessed as a Star Wars fan. Like it just kept going and it kept getting worse.
Oh.
I'm hoping that we get to see some light at the end of the tunnel in season 2, and to see her blow some shit up with Cassian in this trailer made me feel very giddy. I was thinking of also nominating the song from the season 2 trailer. But I didn't. I'm gonna instead go with Bix just last minute. And because I was gonna nominate her at some point, I might as well do it now. So
I mean, that's one way to like combat my pick. Bring out
Exactly.
Adrian Jonah. That's fantastic.
I'm not gonna get Padmade again after last time, where I have a joke nomination ready to go, and then you hit me with Padmade. I'm like, I'm losing. So our nominations this week are Warwick Davis and Bix Colleen. So you can vote. Shortly after this episode drops, we will put up a poll on our social media to determine this week's inductee into the archives, and you guys can decide who goes in this week. It'll be a fun one. Now, let's turn back the clock a little bit. Let's talk about episode 7 and 8 of Skeleton Crew, titled "We're Going to Be in So Much Trouble" and "The Real Good Guys." Episode 7, I like to describe as the so Jod isn't a good guy episode. We have a couple really great moments in this episode. The shot of the Onyx Cinder coming out of hyperspace and the kids seeing At Attin outside for the first time, seeing the barrier, is just already in my mind an instantly iconic Star Wars shot. And then, of course, we got Jod being fucking scary, killing Brutus, and then climbing aboard the Onyx Cinder, stowing away and igniting the lightsaber. And of course, one of the most chilling cliffhangers that we've had, which is him igniting the saber on their families. But we'll get to that when we get there. We start off again with our newest edition of, hey, what are the parents up to this week? And we kind of have them having this like little relay race kind of thing to send this message out past the barrier. They keep getting stunned by the security droids. And again, I love how almost like every other episode it felt like we would catch up with the parents. But it was nice to just see them all put their livelihoods and their bodies on the line to do anything they can to save their kids and to find a way to reach their kids. And there are a few moments in these two episodes where we get to see Wendell really get out of his shell, especially in the finale with him on the speeder bike and just go, "Whoa, God, did you see that?" Like there's plenty of great moments there, but it was great to see these characters do anything they could to get the message out and try to bring their kids home. So this was very Amblin influenced, like these scenes.
Oh yeah,
but they were fun.
Yeah,
so,
I totally agree with with that kind of assessment of it. Like, obviously, talking about like the Jod of it all, it was really interesting. It's so interesting, like with that character, because we spent a whole, like, I think most of us in the fandom like spent weeks thinking, oh, he's gonna be start out really rough. I kind of feel like this is an occasion where it actually the show uses our familiarity, not just with Star Wars, but with the kind of Amblin era of films against us a little bit. Because watching those kind of films, there's plenty of like rough around the edges characters that turn out to have hearts of gold. And what's interesting with Jod is,
Look at Han Solo.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, we all thought he was going to be a Han Solo with a lightsaber, but really he's DJ with a lightsaber. It's
just business.
Yeah. Need a lift? that motherfucker. Yeah, like the way in which like they do it as well, like you have he has multiple opportunities in the episode as well to do the right thing in a sense. Like the moment that, and obviously the moment I'm thinking of here is the bit where, like, as you said, the claw gets Brutus, which again, we've mentioned this like multiple times, like in the episodes. I love the seeding of like stuff in these episodes. Like they seeded the grabbing claw on the ship as early as the third episode. Like the kids are literally playing around with it. Jod tells them to leave it alone, and then they wind up using it against Brutus. And initially it's like, oh yeah. And it's the way in which Jod just stands there and coldly just shoots Brutus, because even though Brutus is like a nasty dude, like just a complete cutthroat, you're still like, oh shit,
whoa, okay,
he just killed him. Like that's just like, and the way he just turns around and just immediately reasserts his authority, and because he's so like, I love the way in which the rest of the pirate crew just fold under him immediately. They're just like, they just don't even try and challenge him. They're just like, they're so intimidated by
Silvo. Yeah, I guess.
It's exactly, and it's this kind of thing where what's interesting about Jod is that he sort of it does feel something for the kids in a way, but he's so enamored with the pirate life because it's all he knows in a sense. It's all he's been left to, and he's so like, it's all he kind of like knows how to kind of survive in a sense. And what that entails is being the biggest, the meanest, and the scariest, because him demonstrating like that, shooting Brutus, the way Jude Law kind of plays it, it's almost kind of like he knows that he has to do this in order to get his pirate crew back, because it's the only way that they will fear him and therefore respect him.
He craves not only that respect, but that companionship. And he feels like, oh, there was it's like, oh, the crew love me. It's like, no, they love me. Like,
yeah.
And like to get that power back, because the only thing he craves more than that is credits. So to get that power back, cold, hard credits. So to get that and to have Brutus in that position of vulnerability where he's just like, all right, now is my moment. I'm going to take you out. And from like that point forward, like the switch flips and it's just like any, at least in this episode, moment of like the good in Jod is just gone. And he is scary for the rest of this episode. And shout out to Jude Law. Like, Jod has become one of my favorite, most complex Star Wars characters, and a lot of it has to do with his excellent performance, which I will talk about more in the finale. Because as you mentioned, like he does have, in my mind at least, some deal of care and liking to the kids, because we'll talk about it more, but there are several moments in that finale where he could have killed them, and he didn't. So it's like he definitely there's something there, and I think that if we get a season 2, one of the things I'll look forward to is the crosshairification, if you will, of Jod, of where we see it maybe a bit slower, maybe there's a bit more bumps in the road, but to get more development in Jod, I am very much looking forward to.
You bring it up, so just to say, you bringing up Crosshair like that now makes me want someone to like create a meme of the like Western movie with James Franco, like with the noose around his neck, like, and then someone's first time, like with the whole heartless bastard gets redeemed story arc.
Mm-hmm. That would be funny.
That makes any sense. Yeah,
that would be funny. I said Crosshair, and I'm like, oh yeah, the Bad Batch of a comic coming out soon, like in a couple days, I think.
Further adventures coming soon.
And the book. I cannot wait for that book. Cannot wait for that book.
More tech is a blessing.
It is a blessing. We didn't get it in season 3. We thought it might have. Well, you thought it might have been CX2, and it wasn't. So we were.
You didn't get. I didn't get tech. You didn't get Sid.
I'm glad about that part.
Yeah.
but
I kind of realized something as well. Just literally now. We've done like 2 seasons of Bad Batch. We've still got like season 1 to cover, like when
we
we're done with
do.
Clone Wars.
I'm gonna just try to go as long as I can without bringing her up in the episodes. It's like, Andrew, isn't there like an important part of this episode you haven't discussed? Nope.
Nope.
No, there isn't. No, I
Yeah,
don't
there
know
was
what
like
you're
this
talking
lizard
about.
over here. Nope.
Yeah, Bosk, yeah, definitely. But the pirates at this point are like trying to figure out how to get through the barrier, and this is when we have to give a little moment of silence to our friend Glurb here, who isn't going to get that ranch that Jod told him he was going to get in episode 6, because he tested out and he is just immediately blown up by the barrier's defenses. So R.I.P. It's just very scary how Jod just flips a switch in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Right away, like not only igniting the saber, which is the first time we've seen it, a lightsaber ignited on screen in this series, and just boom, decapitates SM-33. And I do want to point out that Jude Law at, I think, MegaCon said that he purposely did no lightsaber training for this series to just show how uncoordinated and unfamiliar Jod is with the lightsaber. Because a lot of people were questioning before the finale and just after this episode, like, well, did he get force training? Like, so this must mean he isn't a Jedi, because like that man is holding a lightsaber like he's never held one before.
Oh
And
yeah.
we do find out some tidbits about Jod's past in the finale, which I think are very nice and very fitting for the character. But I'm guessing one of the things that they didn't get to do is lightsaber combat, because that man is just holding it like really, really clunky and just. But he's scary too, because he's these kids are like, oh, what the hell is going on here? And he's pointing this at a group of kids, and we're all just like, man, just 2 episodes ago, we were on that spa planet, running around, dicking around, having a good time. Like, can we go back to that? And now you're threatening them to decapitate them with a lightsaber and gut their parents.
I'm gonna build off what you just said about like Jude Law talking about wielding the lightsaber, because that's a really good choice, I think, because it adds to the kind of danger of him, the fact that he's kind of his grip on power, just like his kind of like overall emotional kind of sanity is very unstable in a lot of ways. So it makes sense that like the way he wields the lightsaber it's not calm, it's not measured, it's very kind of like messy and rough around the edges. And it's like, yeah, he's not fully trained, but he can still do a lot of damage. And it's what kind of makes those scenes with the kids where he after he decapitates poor SM-33, which was devastating, even if we know he's going to be all right because he's a droid.
We were like,
oh no, Nick Frost, no. Like we those scenes with the kids were genuinely menacing, because he's looking very kind of like he's so desperate to try and get them to fear him, because it's the only way that they'll do what he wants, because he knows that they famously don't do well with authority, especially Fern. Like I love the way Fern's actress as well in that scene. She clearly wants to say something bad, but she knows if she says something, she could just push him over the edge. And again, that's what's really good with the acting, that you're able to get across that sense of danger that Jod poses to the characters. And
Fern's acting is unbelievable in these 2 episodes.
Oh, she's phenomenal. Yeah.
Real quickly, I want to turn back because I forgot where it was in the episode, but we have that great moment where Jod's got the helmet back on again.
Oh yeah,
and he's the captain, and SM-33 is like, oh, pirate law, you can't be captain of 2 ships at the same time. And then Fern, of course, calls unclaimsies to reclaim the captaincy, and close enough, and just punches.
Yeah, I love that he's like, I don't think it works like that. And then it's just like boom, like punch right in the face, and like just knocks Jod out. And then SM-33 is like, oh, you better be close enough. And that for me is like, I love that line, because it's the biggest kind of indication of like SM-33 at least has grown to like the kids. Because yeah, it's a bit silly, and it does, even if it does fit with the kind of tone. But I think the hidden meaning behind it is that SM-33, he knows that it doesn't technically follow pirate law, but he has a liking for the kids. He's,
Yep.
droids tend to have like, as much as they're programmed in Star Wars, that we all tend to see the droids as having emotions to a degree and a liking for characters. And SM-33 demonstrates that in that moment where, like, he's like, I could just follow pirate law, but I could actually just use this loophole to like
close enough.
take. And I love that they don't even show the fight. They just immediately cut to all the pirates getting kicked off the ship because he's in that much of a bruiser mode. And I guess because he's in close quarters, it's even harder for the pirates to fight him, which is just very good. It's a great scene. And obviously, you said about the helmet. Can I just say, I love that thing. It looks so cool. It looks very Revan-like as well, with the kind of like eye slit across like the front with like just the black bar. And I love that it resembles a tricorn hat. It makes him look even. It's like they really thought, how can we have a character that looks very kind of Star Wars-ified version of badass, but also looks distinctly piratey, and they just managed it. Like, and like you said, he's such an interesting character because he really does fit the bill of like Star Wars pirates. Like, there's no like skimping around it. He is a Star Wars pirate, and it's part of what makes him like feel so unique amongst all of these characters. In a way, he kind of feels almost like a character that could have existed in the 90s when the expanded universe was like at its peak in terms of like the kind of stories they were putting out.
Oh no, you're 100% right. And I just love the silliness of everyone knows what he looks like at this point. But he's the captain again, so he's got to put the helmet back. I love the fact that like the fact that he wasn't the captain was just the only thing stopping him from wearing the helmet. Like, he could have had it on this whole time. Just
exactly.
Like, all right, I'm captain now. I get to put the helmet back on. And I just
are we gonna get a Black Series helmet of that?
Please, like, I already have the Black Series Jod, but like if we get a Silvo, I'll take it. And if the Silvo comes with the saber, I'll take it.
Oh, I mean like just a Black Series helmet.
A Black Series helmet, like,
oh yeah,
I want that too. Like, we got the Stranger one. I want one of the Silvo helmet. That would be sick. And I just love the emotional beats of these kids seeing the messages from their parents and just seeing what Wendell said to Wim was just heartbreaking. Oh, I should have listened.
That's so touching. And it was great seeing KB's parents as well, all the parents, but I really kind of teared up a little bit with seeing KB's parents just talk to her after that harrowing 6th episode with like just really peeling the curtain back with like what she has to go through. It was very heartwarming, and like you said, Wendell, what he says to Wim, just moving.
I also, as the resident father of Neil of this podcast, seeing Neil's other dad, I just think that's such a cool design. Like, all the other members of his family are just like, cute, and the little siblings are adorable, and he's just like big tusks, scruff face, but just like, son, come home. I'm just like, I love this family so much.
Brilliant.
But again, you flash back to after SM-33 has had his head chopped off, and you just, like you said, you see Jod just snapping, like, oh, just shut up. I don't want to hear you talk anymore. I can't take it. And he just goes off on all the kids. And you just see him like pretty much take the kid gloves off and just say everything that he's wanted to say these last couple episodes, when he was like starting to lose it in episode 5. And then you just see him just unload here, which is just, it's sad because, especially for Wim, like, he wanted to trust him and he wanted to believe that Jod had good in him, and that Jod, maybe he wasn't a Jedi, but he could have done good things, and that he was a part of the team, and he betrayed them like this. Like, I would be devastated too. And like, this is probably the first time that these kids have had true betrayal in their lives. And now this person that was helping them is waving a laser sword in their face, threatening to kill their families if they don't shut the hell up. And it's just, there were some heavy emotional beats in this episode. This show got dark. Like, all Star Wars shows at point, like, have that moment where it's just like, even the most lighthearted ones, it's like, okay, yeah, no, it's getting dark now. And that was this for Skeleton Crew. And it was a surprising watch for me the first time, because I was just like, okay, Like something's gonna happen, and we're gonna have that big moment that we thought we were gonna get of John's gonna realize, and he's gonna protect the kids, and like we said, we've seen these kind of movies before, we've seen these kind of shows before, and the fact that it doesn't happen, and like we said, we're still open to more if we do get a second season, which I think we're going to get. We just gotta wait till Celebration, hopefully at the earliest. Please, well, preferably, like, knowing our luck, even though they just dropped Star Wars news, so it wouldn't make sense. Knowing our luck, we'll wake up tomorrow. Yeah, Skeleton Crew renewed for season 2. Just like, all right, well, we could have, we could have waited here. But
that would be nice
to not see that happen and to go in a genuinely different way of like, oh, so he is just the villain of the show. I appreciate it because, again, like a lot of this show, like with The Acolyte, didn't waste our time with a lot of these mystery. Like the mysteries that we had were different than the ones that like you'd think they'd be promoting. Like right away, we knew Jod was Captain Silvo. Like
and I
right
love
away
that they
in The
didn't
Acolyte,
even,
we knew Osha and May were twins, and they like how the marketing was kind of being coy about it. Literal first shot of the show. Yep. Okay. Yeah, they're twins. But like to see that, like even if it's a lot of this stuff is shown to us or like hinted to us, it worked so well. Even if it is the obvious or expected route that the narrative is going to go, because we've had so much buildup and they've hinted at a lot of the stuff, and it felt like every single little thing that they introduced in previous episodes would show back up. Case in point, episode 4 introduces that big gun. What shows up in the finale on At Attin? The big gun. And
I love
Neil
that.
has his moment. Just little things like that. And then we get the reveal in this episode of why the Onyx Cinder is able to get through the barrier is because it was an At Attin ship. And we see that Tak Renid at some point stole the Onyx Cinder from At Attin and made it his own. And that is the big reveal about the Onyx Cinder. He had to disguise it and make it a pirate ship. And its true form is an At Attin ship. I thought that was a really cool, really cool reveal.
I see. You've actually just kind of like reminded me of something as well, because like I really loved the scene where in episode 6 when like the outer skin like kind of sloughs off the ship and we get
Such
that
a great
sleeker
scene.
silvery look. But I think having the reveal of it being an At Attin ship really adds to the kind of theme of the kids learning to kind of appreciate their home in a lot of sense, like appreciate the things about their home that they took for granted. Because just as At Attin turns out to be kind of like overly mechanized and too sterilized and controlled, there's a lot of things there that the kids kind of took for granted, which was the fact the love of their parents and the kind of security of that place. And I really like just how dangerous everything feels in that second half. Nothing happens yet until the finale, but just the feeling of the ships landed there, Jod's standing around, you just feel this tension because we all know that that planet is so unprepared for the level of violence and danger that these pirates could foist on them. Because, and you mentioned the scene with the parents like carrying off the little radio, the little droid thing to like send the message out. The actors all very deliberately kind of like have a very kind of like stunted movement. Like they're very kind of like insular. They don't run like action heroes. They run like they're very fragile almost. And to represent how they don't really know how to deal with kind of like adventures and that level of violence. They've been conditioned to be very kind of like almost unemotional like droids. So it's really cool to see like the acting and the kind of unspoken kind of stuff like just
makes more sense in the next
episode. Oh, it does yeah. I think we should I also want to mention like the moment that we suddenly hear the supervisor's voice start booming across. Okay, I gotta tell you, I sat bolt upright when I heard that voice. I was like, is that fucking Stephen Fry? Is that Stephen Fry? Like, because I gotta say, that dude has been a part of my childhood. I grew up watching him in sitcoms over here in the UK, Blackadder, Fry and Laurie, that kind of stuff. He's absolutely incredible. Like, proper British icon. Since there's also another thing that we like to do here on the show.
I was going to say, Is he the one Brit that doesn't have it? But no, here we go.
No, that would be Alfred Molina, really. But yeah, it's time for another episode of Who Watch for our last Skeleton Crew recap. Yeah, no, I've got to say, I went trawling for through Alfred Molina's filmography to see if he'd had one Doctor Who appearance. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Stephen Fry, on the other hand, yes, for sure. And it's actually pretty recent. He appeared in the first episode of Jodie Whittaker's second season. Yeah, so which was like, I think that was like around 2020. So that was like pre-COVID, which was a crazy time. But he played basically the head of MI6 because that the 2-part episode. Yeah, it was really cool. It was a 2-part spy-centric story that like wrapped the Doctor and her 3 companions up in like a weird adventure with like some aliens and stuff, and it gets pretty crazy. There's like a villain that gets revealed there that's like just insane, and just it really made me respect another actor a whole lot more just from like just the performance they gave. But his appearance is pretty brief, but the fact that it's Stephen Fry was just like so cool, and he'd been trying to get like a guest appearance for ages with the show. He almost wrote an episode of David Tennant's first season. Sorry. But yeah, like I was so delighted that he showed up, and just to give a sense of how much I'm a fan of Stephen Fry, like I spent like a good whole like hour after the episode thinking of like, oh, how awesome it was he was here, and then it just dawned on me like ages after the fact, oh yeah, I can do a Who Watch episode.
It's like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. Yeah,
that's a
because like you only
bit we have on the show.
Little behind the scenes thing. Whenever there's a British actor showing up in Doctor Who now, I am like the minute the episode is done, I get their name. I look if I don't know them already, and I'm like, I'm going through IMDb. I'm like, if there's a Doctor Who credit there, I'm gonna find it. God damn it.
It's just the thing, and we're gonna have a retroactive one in Andor season 2.
Looking forward to that one.
It wasn't a thing yet when we did Andor season 1, so excited about that.
We wouldn't have Who Watch without Andor. Andor
started Who Watch. Every single actor in that show was in either Doctor Who or Game of Thrones.
My favorite one to go through was the Doctor that was played by James Potter's actor, just because of the fact that your reaction was priceless. You were literally, you thought, surely there's no one else. Surely he can't find another one this episode. And then I did.
And then you did. I'm like,
and it was right at the end.
Oh man. What good times. But Stephen Fry, when we do get down to At Attin, the voice of the supervisor, great casting, announces the arrival of a Republic emissary, which is Jod's plan. He's going to disguise himself as a Republic emissary, get access to the vaults, and basically get his ships there and steal all the credits. And as we find out in episode 8, a bit more than that, kind of use the citizens of At Attin as his own personal workforce. Of course, I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to kill anyone. It's like, what are we doing here, Jod? Like, I mean, I sort of believe you, but it's also like, you do realize what enslaving a population entails, right? Like, Jod, like you're
moving the goalposts there, buddy.
Mm-hmm. But this is like some of Jude Law's best work in the entire show. Of just him in the vaults. First of all, how many are there? It's like 1,139. Like having to have that one extra of 1138 to just like completely like up George's number. Like I thought was just a great little joke.
It's like Star Wars diehards who heard that and they didn't know how to process it because they were like, yeah, it's supposed to be 38 though. This is weird.
It's
I know
like
it's
like are you the one that did the Kessel run in 14 parsecs? It's like 12. 14. Which I guarantee you there were probably some people like, Disney doesn't even know their own lore. It's 12 parsecs. See how stupid they are? Like, I guarantee you someone tried to do that after that. But again, some of Jude Law's best moments when he's holding the credits and just like them falling through his hands and he just starts laughing was just the sheer joy that this man felt being around that much money is just, you could just see it. And it's one of my favorite scenes from Jude Law in this entire series. It was just That's a mad lad right there. I love him.
He had his Long John Silver moment finally with the gold, holding fistfuls of like the gold. And I I agree with everything you said there. His performance was great. The way in which he like just started laughing and like almost like the kind of like emotion, a sheer emotion, actually seeing that he has finally found the big score that he was always looking for. Like he's almost close to tears, and then like the laughter and the way Mick Giacchino's score just kind of turns into like this dread of like, oh no, this is not good. Like despite his joy and his laughter, it's like, this is not a good thing. This is not a good thing. He's getting rewarded for like pursuing this pirate life. This is going to make him worse. And I'm also going to like call back to an episode of the Nerd Academy podcast. I don't know if it was Jared or Alden Diaz who said this, but during their review of Deadpool and Wolverine, when they were talking about Cassandra Nova, there was like a talk about how interesting it is to have a character who refuses the call actively, the call to like be better. And Jod has those kind of moments there. You know, he could have he had as much gold as he could carry. He could have just left at any point, but his greed for credits and like the desire to always have more, which is like fundamental to the life of the pirates, you know, it's the pull is too strong. It's like a tractor beam, and we get that great scene at the end of like him drawing his lightsaber on the parents and the kids, which is like, it's so funny that it's just undercut with the next episode, but like the menace of the
next episode is just like immediately deignites. Hi, I'm Jod. I'm the emissary. It's just, but at this point,
I just wanted to show off.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's gonna, because we get that great moment of the kids reuniting with their parents and just emotional heartbeat. Then Jod, you just see his face, boom, lightsaber. And we're just like, oh shit. And it kind of just parallels the Master Skywalker, what are we gonna do? Boom.
Oh yeah. That was like messed up. But like I really like that the lightsaber is blue as well, because I'm going to obviously reference some of the discourse that happened around that episode. There was a lot of talk afterwards of how threatening a lightsaber felt for the first time in a while, and just in terms of being on its own. And I think part of the fact is it's blue.
It's blue.
So
it's a big reason why so much of Anakin's tragedy and the horrible things we see hit harder, because it's a lightsaber we associate with the good and with the Jedi. So to see it, mow down younglings is rough. But like to see it here and to see it threaten children is
something else.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
And we feel betrayed in a way, because we almost let our guards down, not just because of the color, but also because of like what we expect of him, as we've said. So like the betrayal kind of adds to the sense of danger we feel, because there's vulnerability there because of the connection that we've established. But that was a great like cliffhanger.
Yeah, definitely. And as we get into the finale, like we said, just immediately he's just like, oh yeah, I'm Jod Nanalwood, Republic emissary, and he schemes his way into getting Fern to go with him to meet the supervisor, and Farrah goes with him as well, and then we just get the setup for the rest of the finale. Let me just say right off the bat, one of my favorite finales of any Star Wars season ever, I must say. I am sort of in agreement when a lot of people were saying that I would have maybe liked an epilogue at the end to just show the kids afterwards and get more of them just together on At Attin afterwards, especially if we're not going to get a second season. But I also just love the poeticness of the last shot being Wim looking out at the X-Wings, and this time it's not Kim's goons this time, like, oh, those are the real good guys.
Yeah, the good guys. Heroes.
That could be me. That is me. Like, I love that moment. And I think it's a great last shot for the season. I am about the Acolyte. I am fairly confident we're going to get more stories with these characters. Whether that be a second season, I'm hoping.
That's a good caveat.
It probably will be. But I think we're going to get more stories with these characters. So I don't think this is going to be the last that we see of them. But I would have liked a little bit.
I'll save my speculations for like the end, but I do agree with you that like I would have personally liked an epilogue, because I feel like if we'd had at least an epilogue of like what how the parents and the kids kind of like fit into the New Republic system afterwards, it would have maybe made this work as like a self-contained thing. But because of that, I really want a season 2 now to see how everything kind of pans out. But
absolutely,
as
we'll do a little segment at the end talking about all of that and what we would like to see next. But we see Jod basically send the other kids away to their homes, to their quarters, and have them get spied on and overseen by the security droids while he takes Fern and Farrah to meet the supervisor. Which the big reveal, it's like, who is the supervisor? Is it Tack Renid? Is it this? Is it that? It's a giant droid. And
it's a big ass droid.
Kind of expected it, but I just love the way it was revealed. Of just like, oh yeah, we knew it was a droid, and it makes a lot of it makes a lot of the prior scenes make a bit more sense. Of this is a reveal for us, but it's not a reveal for the adults. Once you pass your entry levels, I think you're just told, hey, yeah, this is how At Attin works. This is the supervisor. Because I think we were all expecting like Farrah to be like, this supervisor this whole time was a droid. And she's like, yeah, it's a droid. We all knew that. And it's just like they all play their part and they all make At Attin work in this period of isolation. And a big theme of this episode is the kids coming to the aid and the rescue of this planet, but also At Attin opening up and finally seeing a world without isolation, and a world where they're open up to the Republic again. And that is another thing that I am very interested in seeing in future seasons, and in future storytelling, is what is At Attin going to be like when they're not isolated from the rest of the Republic, the rest of the galaxy. That I'm going to be very interested in, because we see some things of what the supervisor is alerted of, and he mentioned it's been a long time since there's been an emissary arriving on this planet. Like, how long is that? We do know that potentially the last thing he ever heard was that the Jedi were traitors to the Republic, and this is what kind of blows Jod's cover, which I love. It's like, oh, you're an emissary and you're a Jedi, but I found out, the last thing I heard was that the Jedi were enemies of the Republic. So which one are you lying about? And then he just lightsaber right to the eye of the droid, which I think was, it's just like, it's the perfect Jod thing of like, shit, what do I got to do here? Boom. Yeah. I guess I got to destroy the supervisor now.
Yeah, it's very kind of like improv style, kind of like what Han Solo used to do in the original trilogy of boring conversation anyway, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I really liked the whole kind of reveal as well, because again, it just kind of it explains a lot of the kind of parents' actions, why they're a lot more anxious about the kids being out there, and they so quickly decide to just break from the programming and just save the kids, because they know how the system works. They've seen the supervisors, they know that the kids are just going to be kind of left to their own devices out in space, and they obviously they love their kids, they can't have that, so they have to break protocol basically. And it was just, it was a really good scene, again showing Jod's menace and stuff, and again, Ryan Kira Armstrong plays Fern. She was fantastic in those scenes, because you could feel just how concerned she was for her mother. And again, this is another subversive thing in terms of how the characters are kind of portrayed here. We've obviously got what's a kind of expected relationship between Wim and Wendell, where Wendell is kind of distant and stuff, very focused on work, and Wim feels very neglected and is imaginative. I kind of felt like with Fern and Farrah, there was a very kind of different kind of vibe going on, because Fern loves her mother very much and isn't kind of embarrassed of her as a supervisor, but she just has this kind of she just feels pulled more towards being kind of rebellious. She doesn't want to disappoint her mother, but at the same time, she doesn't want to just be like a high achiever at school. She wants to be this kind of badass she's the equivalent of the image of a cartoon puffing their chest up to look tough. Because she said it in this first episode, you have to look tough to deal with those kind of bullies and stuff. And it's really interesting to see how struggle under the kind of pressure of the fact that her mum is there, and Jod, someone she had come to trust, is threatening the two of them like now with a lightsaber. But it's very good, basically.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it was great seeing that and just seeing Fern just get to Farah a little bit and get her to break the way that she kind of thinks and to directly fight back and I just, it was so menacing of like every time we would cut back afterwards to like Fern and Farah talking and Ja would just like, no scheming. I just like, and just firing at them with a blaster. I was like, oh damn. But again, this goes to my thing that I said earlier about Jod is there are several moments in this episode where he could have killed every single one of those kids, whether it be having the crew open fire on them, whether it be him just boom shooting Farrah or Fern right there, whether it be taking Wim out later in the episode. There are several moments where he easily could have, and he's like giving them a chance to stall or do whatever they need to do. When Wim is telling that story, and we have that great moment where Fern, complete subversion of how we see her at the beginning, just starts helping Wim out with the story and like buying into it and like trying to convince Jod. And Jod obviously doesn't buy any of it, but he's entertaining them.
Yeah.
And then that moment later in the episode where we see the Onyx Cinder go down and Fern thinks that KB has died, and we just have that long shot of John. It's just like, this didn't have to happen. And you just see him just like legitimately shaken up and sad. So I do think that he does care a little bit about the kids, and he's not entirely 100% evil, but
and it's that complexity that gives him like,
yet. And that's what makes Jod such a compelling character for me. And there's that moment at the end, jumping all over the place, and we get these moments later when Wim calls out for Jod one more time. And he just like doesn't leave with them, and he looks out on his failed mission. And it's just like the fact that, again, the whimsicalness of Wim, where even after all this, he still is like, no, you can still come with us. I just love that, and I love these characters so much.
100%. I love that whole scene of like him walking, because it was very kind of like, it reminded me of like the concept art of Jewel of the Fates, like the aborted version of episode 9 with like General Hux. Yeah, I was really, I was like, don't you do a Hux? Don't you do a Hux?
No, I'm so glad. Again, we're jumping around, but I'm so glad Jod lived. Like,
me too. I loved that. I love that he stuck around, and I love that there's kind of like, there's a little twinkle in his eye at the end, because in a way, you know, it's sad for him because he's watching, in essence, his life go up in flames, like the prestige, the life he clung to. But in a way, he's free at the end, because he's freed of the burden of being a pirate. Yeah, and because we know he can disappear and stuff, and maybe he gets arrested at the end. We don't actually know what happens to him, if he's either arrested by the New Republic or if he manages to slip away somehow. He's very good at that. But it was a very kind of like interesting scene. Like you said, Jod is a good character because he has the potential in him to be good. He has the potential to do a Han Solo kind of thing. He's just not there yet because of like how much of a grip the pirate life has on him. And in a sense, it's because he never had a figure like, say, Han did with Chewbacca, because like, you know, Han had his own like kind of stuff that's going on in Solo, his own people he cared about and lost and stuff, but he always had Chewie there to kind of buck him up. Whereas Jod has no one, and you know, that's very well expressed with like his backstory that he talks about, where we learn that he was very briefly mentored by a Jedi, but she was murdered by we can only assume the Inquisitors. They didn't actually say, but I would have to assume it's the Inquisitors that killed her. But that was I really liked that explanation also of like how he came to have like kind of forced training and stuff. So he had just enough to use the abilities to get by, but he didn't have enough to become a Jedi. He was left unrealized. His potential was left unfulfilled, unrealized, and he was kind of stuck in that limbo. And so it makes so much sense that as a character, his morals and his kind of like personality are constantly in that limbo of kind of a good guy, but also like so utterly consumed by the pirate life. So it just, the origin matches the character so well.
Absolutely. But to jump back, Jod, when he destroys a supervisor, the power on the entire planet essentially goes
yeah.
out. All the security droids shut down. It was so cool just seeing it just go in this huge darkness, and then allows Jod to essentially convince Farah to open up the barrier and to allow his pirate ship to come into the planet and basically start a ground invasion of At Attin. But I just love that we see the kids just, once they realize the droids are down, just go into planning mode and just go into the kids on bikes genre again.
Yes.
And Wendell chasing after them and getting on the speeder bikes with them. I just thought it was so great. And just having them have one last moment. Again, Neil's always in the tub. Always in the tub when things go down. Like, just let that man have a soak.
The parents are like, "Oh no, you've been through so much here. Like, have a bath." Like, that was so adorable. Yeah, it's just, and I love that the parents do. The kids are just like taken back to their home straight away, but they just, like you said, they immediately kind of jump into like, "No, I don't trust George. I don't trust what he's doing here. We got to make a plan and shit." And that whole bit where the barrier goes down and the pirates start to like come through and menace the place again. Real danger. We really feel you feel scared for the denizens there, because this feels so peaceful, but also so controlled and fragile. Because we got a taste of that with the fourth episode, dealing with like the Troikans, the Hatton, of like how. Yeah, like we got some of that, and like dealing with how, in a sense, the people of At Attin and the kids were unprepared for the violence of the galaxy. But it's so cool to see like the way the kids respond to it, having been through their adventures. And we get that great line from Fern where she says to Farah, "No matter where we went, there were always good people along the way." And it's so true. Like, they had the dancer at the red light district on Port Borgo, you had Kim, you had the X-Wing pilots, you had all these different people that just gave them a little bit of help.
Boy,
Catholops. I love Catholops so much.
Yeah, it was another great line from Fern. It just showed the growth in her character. That and her just helping Wim just bullshit with that story are two of my favorite Fern moments in this episode.
She started the show telling him to grow up, and then her kind of arc completes with her kind of helping embellish his stories. Yeah,
crystal thing. I don't even remember what the story was, but it's just like he's like, yeah, okay, like I don't believe any of this. But again, he's just letting them tell their own story.
He's like, I'm 99% sure this is bullshit, but go on, like, tell me.
Exactly. And I just love little things like them able to make the jump with the speeders this time.
Oh yes,
Neil getting left behind and him going through the school and finding the friggin' gun from episode 4. It's just like, boom, here we go. KB piloting the Onyx Cinder by herself to get out far enough to send a signal to Kim, to send the X-Wings. All of it was so good. And then it hurt, man. Like I knew in my heart of hearts that when the Onyx Cinder was shot down, that KB wasn't actually dead. But man, did they do a good job at making you think she was. Because
the Obi-Wan show
scream from Fern. It's like, have you ever read the behind the scenes thing from Order of the Phoenix, where they had the reason why Daniel Radcliffe's scream is muted when Sirius Black dies is because it was so like blood curdling and tear jerking that we're like, we can't include this because it's
I remember thinking
powerful. So like it felt like that to me of like,
I remember thinking like, but during the behind the scenes thing, damn, that's probably going to be one hell of a scream if they're like, he was giving his all in that scene. But yeah, you actually reminded me, I was going to like compare the scenes of Jod and the kids. I have to ask you a question first. Have you seen Breaking Bad? Like all of Breaking Bad?
Yep.
Right. So some of the scenes in a way did remind me a bit of the episode Ozymandias, specifically the bit towards the end, like the really tense sequence in Walter White's house where, his everything has come out and he's scuffling with his family and there's like a knife involved and there's like so much tension around that because no one does get hurt in that scene, but there's the constant fear of someone potentially, and Walter doesn't want to hurt his family, but there's a constant terrible tension.
The entire episode, I don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah, and there's just like this constant terror of like, is something going to go too far by accident and someone's going to get hurt? You know, that episode, incidentally, directed by Ryan
Yeah, I was
Johnson.
gonna say it would be cool if that guy directed a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. Yeah,
Really
you know,
cool.
hopefully
I feel like
people would like it.
really enjoy that,
You
and
know,
there wouldn't
hopefully
be any
people wouldn't.
controversy at all.
There wouldn't be any people like flipping out about it and
Widely
creating a
considered
whole
to be the greatest
hate.
TV episode of all time, and
Yeah, like
definitely nothing bad would come of that.
yeah, like no one basing like a hate movement and shit off of that, harassing people. You know, yeah, that's all seems so far fetched, doesn't it?
Nah, you're making that up. That sounds too good to be true.
Oh yeah.
What are you gonna say next? The person that made Russian Doll is gonna do a Star Wars show, and we're gonna have controversy?
You've got me doing the Deadpool face, Andrew.
I know.
Ooh,
What a
yes.
shock.
What a possibility.
Anyways, yeah, I was like, oh no. Because at first I was like, I thought it was going to be because I had to rewind it. Because the first time I didn't see the smoke billowing. So I was like, is it like a stops right at the end and then boom kind of thing, like that we've seen in a couple different things. But no, like she actually crashed. And I was just like, oh no. And we see the Fern screen, we see the look on Jod's face, and I'm just like, and I'm just like, please don't tell me, because I would have been actually very upset if KB died, because even though I love that 6th episode, I still feel like she's still got the least amount of development between the 4 kids. So I would have been very upset. It's like, oh, they finally give her that and they kill her. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And thankfully, that scene at the end, oh, did we win? It's perfect Star Wars.
We were so close to getting teched again, really. Like, oh, you give this character all this great development and you kill them. But yeah, like,
she goes, when have we ever followed orders? I'm like, no, not again.
My heart, man. Oh, like literally, Kiriana Kreisa, who plays her, again, fantastic performance, and I loved the bit where her parents encouraged her over the kind of like communications. Oh, you can do anything, sweetie. Like it was such a heart swelling moment, and just the way in which the kids all like use their skills and stuff. Wim uses his imagination. Fern uses her like fortitude, her toughness. KB uses her aptitude for technology, and Neil uses the fact, in a sense, that he is constantly underestimated as well, like to use the big cannon and shit. And then it all comes together with the fucking New Republic military showing up and taking out the pirates. Like, was I the only one who like went, oh fuck yes, when the B-wing arrived and did that laser cannon
and did
from
the
Rebels.
laser thing?
Oh, it was so good. I've always loved those things, like
straight out of Rebels. Like I see the B-wings, I'm like, yeah, and then I see the lasers, I'm like, that's just pure Star Wars nerd goodness right there.
I'm turning into Kyle Katarn, the streamer, because I'm like, yes.
We just a great title to The Real Good Guys. I love it. And then as that's happening, there's so many great moments throughout this fight where they're just struggling over the lightsaber, or they're struggling over pulling that lever. And finally, at this point, Jod ends up losing the saber, and Wim finally gets that hero moment and ignites the lightsaber.
I love that shot. I love that shot of like Fern standing ready with like her fists raised, and like Wim just like confidently turning the lightsaber on. Like, yeah, I'm not falling for that twice.
Wendell gets a punch against Jod. Like, there were so many great moments, and then at that point, Jod's like finally just like, yeah, I lost. Whatever. Like,
it's like the bit in Beethoven where the dad like finally just like punches the evil doctor in the face, and you're like, yeah, I didn't know you had it in you.
Yeah, Wendell. Yeah. Next thing, I was just expecting there to be a scene where he just loses the glasses, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, hold on, I can punch someone now. It just there were so many great moments, and we get that moment too, where after this, the barrier is destroyed. They're able to get the X-Wings in there, and At Attin is now open to the New Republic and the rest of the galaxy. And I'm very, like I said earlier, very curious how that's going to end up. Just how, and if we get more details of just how long they were isolated. Was it capital O, capital R Republic, Old Republic, or was it High Republic with the Great Works? And again, we'll get these answers eventually. We didn't need them to just stop the episode and be like, yeah, so 3,000 years ago, At Attin was, isolated. Like, we didn't need
What
them.
period of the Jedi Sith War did this take place?
Excuse
we have
me.
to know, Glenn.
Is this the Old Republic like Darth Bane, or is this like the Old Republic like like Phantom Menace old? Like I need answers here.
We need the details.
How old is Kiadi Mundi, and how is that important to this story? Like,
why do they suddenly need fuel to travel? What's going on?
You're telling me there's fire in space? I don't believe it.
How did the Jedi not sense the Sith? There's 7 of them, for goodness sake.
It's right there. You're telling me they don't see it? I don't.
Why are there bricks and screws on this planet that I've never seen before?
Why are there suburban houses? I don't know.
I'm gonna add to what you just said about the speculation and say about like I am weirdly fascinated with how the adults will adapt, being brought into the kind of New Republic bureaucracy, because like it's so interesting. Like the end of like the thing I especially love it ending, like you said, on whim, seeing the ships coming in. It's this great kind of like fulfilling moment of like, he got essentially what he wanted. He wanted adventure. He wanted like the kind of fanciful stories that he read to kind of come to life and sweep him away from his boring existence. And it happened. It didn't happen the way he expected it to. And he certainly didn't wind up in the situation he hoped for. But it happened all the same. And he's staring up at the sky with renewed hope at the X-Wings. I love that. And I was like, they never canceled Rogue Squadron. That's still in development, apparently. So
Wim as a X-Wing pilot, that would be
I imagine season 2 is Wim. Like, I would be genuinely interested if they do a season 2, if they maybe like do an Empire and they split the kids apart and send them to different areas of the galaxy, as like At Attin gets absorbed into the New Republic. Like maybe Fern is like stays with her mother and gets like swept off to Coruscant. Neil stays on At Attin, sees all the development. Wim goes off to train to become a rebel pilot. That would be very cool. Very cool.
What we do know is from the interviews from John Watson, Christopher Ford, that there is going to be some sort of time jump, which I think makes sense with these characters aging up.
100%.
Can you imagine if, say, they took 4 years to do a season, and characters that are supposed to be like, I don't know, like 15, were actually like in their late 20s or something like that, and then said, actually, the season might not come out till 2026. Can you imagine if a show like that did that?
Oh my god.
It's been shot. Just release the damn season already. I'm sick of this shit. Anyways, I do want to real quickly again talk about how once the X-Wings, they shoot down, they destroy the pirate ship. I think a couple of them escaped. Like, I think Gunther ended up escaping. I don't think Vane was on the ship, so we might.
Oh no, Vane got clean away. He's gonna turn up being like a no-name stormtrooper. Like he'll be the new Rick the Door technician, and like Mando will like knock him over, and then his helmet will come off, and Mando will be like, "You again?"
But like we might still see Space Jaleel White in another project. But
I hope so.
When again, Wim screaming out like, "Oh, Jod," and then him just giving him that look like, "No, like I need to stay here," and him just looking out. I love how there's like just a little, and they said in an interview like where Jod has that little bit of a smile, and they said like, yeah, I mean that's kind of just up to your interpretation. Like they were just like, yeah, think of that what you will. We don't have a clear answer for you.
So excited to see where he can go next, because he can literally go anywhere. He could carry on being a villain. Like maybe someone hires him to like deal with Mando or something. Maybe he gets the lightsaber back. He fights with Luke Skywalker or something, or Ezra. I could see him interacting. You see, here's the thing. If there's one person who could probably help turn Jod back to the good side, it would probably be Ezra, because he has experience dealing with pirates. Right. Maybe we could have like a Hondo and
Jod and Hondo pirate off.
I mean, Hondo turned up in Outlaws. I've yet to play that bit, but he turned up in Outlaws. So it'd be really cool to see him. Like, you could see a lot of these established characters like mixing in like really well. Like these kids would. Can you imagine these kids with the Rebels cast, like meeting Ezra and stuff, getting along with
so many
Jason
people
Solo?
Have fan pitched them meeting up with Jason Sandula in the Filoni movie.
Yeah.
And I really hope that does happen.
That would be great.
But let me just say, I am so glad that we did not end Jod with like the pirate, like a Krennic in Rogue One, where the ship just comes down crashing onto the embassy building, and he just dies there. Like, I am so glad that we left his story open ended. My guess is he's gonna start off the next season with what I thought they were gonna do with Gideon in Mando season 3, which is he's just going to be in a New Republic prison, and we're going to cut back to him a couple times in the season, and then he's eventually going to get out, and then we're going to get that redemption arc. But he could have escaped. He, very well could have, and he could have gotten off the planet somehow, and we end up seeing him like later down the line in the season and meet back up with the kids and see where Jod's story takes him. But there's so much more of that character to tell, and I think they know that, and I think they are very much excited to tell more of all of these characters. So again, for them to reunite with KB at the end, to get SM-33 head in hand, I thought was great.
Proper pirate vibes. Like, I love as well that I just mentioned about his design as well. The fact that his head resembles a skull is so good. Really. Like, at first I thought he seemed a bit too much like K2SO in his design, but looking at him in motion, the helmet, the head just looks so much like a skull. It's great. Yeah.
And then just, like I said, the ending shot of Wim looking out. And then I love that the credits were updated to be Wim's storybooks.
Yes.
And as the credits continued, you have the characters integrated into the books, and you see the skeleton crew. You see Jod in there, potentially him and his master. I thought that was excellent, and then
it really adds to the meta of this series. Oh yeah,
I love that. I adored that, and now I think we can pivot to where would we like to see this series go in the future. Do we think a second season is happening? Do you think that these characters are going to show up in future things?
I think the characters are going to show up in future things.
I think regardless of if we get a second season, we're seeing them again.
We'll get probably, if we don't get a second season, we'll probably have a book of some kind or a comic, maybe even an animated series potentially, if they want to do more stuff immediately and the kids have obviously aged out of the roles, so they could bring them back to do voices. There was rumors that there was going to be a Pirates spin-off about Jod, like before the series aired. And at first I was like, I don't know how that's going to work. But now I would honestly follow that. I think that's an interesting prospect, Jod getting his own self-contained show. But I feel pretty confident we could get a second season.
I'm like obviously more skeptical. As an animated series, I think.
Yeah, I think that would fit more. I'm a little skeptical, obviously, because I had my hopes huge for an Acolyte season 2. Yep. I'm still salty about it that it got cancelled. I've got like a crackpot conspiracy theory that Manny being there for Star Wars Celebration is like they're gonna like have a whole panel and then have him come out and have him go, oh yeah, actually yeah, we are doing a season 2 or like a movie or something. I mean, it's crackpot, but I'm gonna hold on to it for a bit. Speaking of Celebration, I really hope we have a panel of some kind about Skeleton Crew. They've not confirmed Jude Law or any of the kids, but it would be great to have like a sort of roundtable discussion.
How far out? Let me try that again. How far out are we from Star Wars Celebration? Let me look.
I think it's early April, isn't it? I'm not sure. Is it going to coincide with Andor's release?
That's April 18th to 20th, so it's right before Andor season 2 starts, which means that they're probably going to do what they did with Kenobi and have an early screening for the first 3 episodes for the people.
They're totally going to do that.
So that's going to be sick.
That's probably why they've got they're going to upload the first 3 together, because they're going to upload those. They're probably going to have them air in a cinema if there's a nearby cinema to Celebration. That would be really awesome. Andor in the cinema.
My guess currently is the first thing we're going to hear, because I'm assuming whether or not the cast is there, we're going to get some kind of Skeleton Crew panel at Celebration. That makes sense. They normally will have that for whatever the most recent series is that has aired. My guess right now is we're going to get a season 2 announcement at Celebration. I think it fits with the pattern that they've been doing. I think the last show that we got, like just a regular, not counting like Visions or Tales of the Empire or anything like that, because those are like kind of their own anthology things. I think the last show that we got like a standalone like social media announcement of season 2 is happening. Well, I just completely ruined my point because I was going to say Bad Batch season 2, but it was actually Ahsoka. Ahsoka got confirmed through social media. But there was no Celebration that year. But like Bad Batch season 3, that announcement was reserved until Celebration. We already knew Andor was getting a season 2, stuff like that. I feel like they're going to do do we have any more? And then they're going to announce Skeleton Crew season 2.
100%, because we're going to get a lot of that notification. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I do think that regardless, these characters, at least the core 4 and Jod, are going to show up in the Heir to the Empire movie. I don't know how big of a role they're going to have.
I think so, yeah.
But I think they're going to show up there. Now, what were you going to say before I interrupted you? Sorry.
Well, I was going to just briefly, I could see Jod maybe fulfilling the role of, I can't remember his name, but the pirate who kind of takes over Tatooine potentially, like playing a similar role to that character that character did in the Heir to the Empire book. But I was going to mention about Celebration. Yeah. We're definitely going to get some announcements of some kind about the TV shows, because after Andor season 2, we've only got
nothing. Yep, we got Ahsoka, and that's it.
We've run across the whole spectrum now of these Star Wars shows since they were first announced in 2020. Aside from Rangers of the Republic, which is like still kaput, but every other show has more or less come out, apart from the Lando show. Sorry, that's going to be a movie now. But we kind of be in for some announcements, surely, about like the state of where things are going. We're probably going to get some Ahsoka season 2 stuff. They've already
get some film stuff, and I think we're definitely going to get some TV stuff, because Ahsoka season 2, I don't think is filming yet, but it's going to be filming this year.
Yeah, it's going to film this year, and it's going to film in the UK, which is really interesting because Hayden is confirmed to be at Celebration, and as is Rosario. So they're probably going to have them do some stuff talking about Ahsoka, but they're also probably going to confirm Hayden is going to be in Ahsoka season 2.
I think the rumor most now likely that Daisy's New Jedi Order movie, and I think it's either Sean Levy's or Filoni's movie, is they're both going to start shooting next year. I don't remember which one.
That kind of would make sense. I just read about Daisy Ridley's movie starting shooting, which I am more and more hyped for that the more I read about it. Like, I love that they've got a new writer. I love that she's involved in it. I think that's fantastic that she's getting more of an input in the story. I love that they are both in agreement that yes, Star Wars is in fact political and has been from the fucking start.
What are you talking about?
But yeah,
news to me. What's this?
That's yeah. Oh, goodness me. Thank you, Jane Fonda, for pointing out how silly that phrase is. But I'm optimistic for a Skeleton Crew season 2, and I would love to see like the kids kind of be used to explore other aspects of the galaxy, like whether that's like rebel training or like what Coruscant is like now. Like, we got that one episode on Coruscant in Mando season 3, and we haven't had much after that. Maybe they go on the kind of outskirts and they meet characters like Carson Teva, who I was so convinced was going to be in this show, and he wasn't. That was crazy.
That's the thing, is they besides Vane, nothing in terms of other Mandoverse connections.
Can I tell you something?
Very easily could have had Carson Teva be that X-Wing fighter in episode 3.
I genuinely thought for a period there, like when they said they were going to contact Kim and Kim was going to send someone, I had a thought of like, oh shit, are they going to send like the Mandalorian or someone to like come and like...
I saw someone say, oh yeah, the Last Shadow episode 7 is going to be them contacting Kim. Kim calls a client and then Mando starts playing. I'm like, God damn it, no. Not another show.
Genuinely though, as much as it would have been cool to see like the fucking Razor Crest or the N1 come out of the sky and Din arrive and hear that Ludwig Göransson theme, I am so impressed with this show. The level of restraint they showed in not having cameos, not having overabundance of fan service. They were for as much as they seemed like trepidatious about marketing, they were confident enough in this show to not force in other characters. Yeah, exactly. The Mando season 1 did. They were confident to have it stand on its own, be its own corner of the galaxy, literally cordoned off from everything else. And now that we're open up to like the rest of the galaxy, like with like the barrier being gone, it would make sense to have the characters interact with new people and have that be a kind of way to flesh out the New Republic even more. Something that doesn't make us just go, you know what, maybe it was kind of okay that they got blown up
Yeah,
by
exactly.
Starkiller Base.
I do think, and I'm not the only one that's pointed this out, but I think a great way to continue the story of Skeleton Crew while we're in between seasons, because might be a while until they can film season 2, and with the actors aging up, is have books, have comics, have middle grade novels, have maybe some animated shorts or something like that on Disney Plus or the Star Wars YouTube channel. Just let the generation of kids that was introduced to Star Wars through this show continue to follow these characters, because that's what we had with the Clone Wars growing up. That's what kids right now have with Young Jedi Adventures. That's what kids have had with so many different forms of mediums and franchises and characters, and the fact that, and this has been my one critique of Disney and how they've handled Star Wars, was original trilogy kids, they had the Legends books, they had the video games. Prequel kids, we had a bunch of games, we had the Clone Wars, 2 Clone Wars shows. We had all the stuff to satisfy us, and the sequel trilogy kids got nothing. Like, literally, we are getting our first wide sequel trilogy story since The Rise of Skywalker this year, and it's been 6 years since that movie's come out.
Oh yeah, my hope is that we're going to see more stuff filled in. R.I.P. Watto, by the way.
I know, R.I.P. A real one. No, you're not. But we've had Mando, like the Mandoverse, like they've done a good job at keeping that relevant and like introducing a new generation of Star Wars fans through The Mandalorian. But Skeleton Crew just seems like the perfect opportunity to have that consistent flow of stories. And if you, that's another thing I think we're going to get at Celebration no matter what, is I think we're going to get, whether it be a book or a comic or something, we're going to get some type of expanded publishing side covering these characters. And I do think a season 2 is happening, which leads me to, before we leave, what would you like to see in a season 2? What would be some things you'd like for them to touch on? Characters you'd maybe like to see them bring into the story, and just what would you like to see more of from Jod and the kids and the greater story of At Attin?
I would, as I said, I'd love to see how the adults kind of like deal with like being incorporated into kind of like New Republic jobs. I'd like to see how the New Republic kind of responds to this and how it kind of like changes the shape of things, because obviously now the New Republic has a huge amount of money that At Attin is almost certainly going to share with them in the form of that like huge amount of credits, and they have the mint. It's really going to be interesting to see how that kind of affects things politically, maybe explore a little bit of that. I know it's obviously it's a younger skewing show, so we won't see the political side of it too much, but I'd be genuinely interested to see the fallout of that. And I'd also like to dig a bit more into Jod's backstory. Like, we didn't touch on this, but it was revealed after the fact that they did in fact film flashback sequences depicting him being trained by the Jedi who was on the run. They had an actress cast. Yasmin Al-Masri is her name, which was, and she shared like behind the scenes things. Of, like her in the costume.
And she had a Padawan braid too, which I think was a really nice detail.
Which really would have kind of added to the whole kind of vibe of like her being on the run, somewhat untrained, and having to like sort of look after this kid. That's an interesting story, and I would genuinely like it if they maybe even brought her back to kind of explore a bit of that, if it's whether it's in a season 2 or in Jod's own series. I'd love to see the characters kind of like challenged a little bit, like maybe Wim becomes a little more eager for adventure, like again, like stumbles into some like fracas with pirates. Maybe one of them gets kidnapped by one of like Jod's former crew or something. Like, I could see my instinct would be to kind of scatter the kids and have them like experience more of the kind of New Republic part of the galaxy, and then pull back to see more of the kind of like dangerous kind of underbelly with the pirates. Because I will say Skeleton Crew explored this thread really well, and I think Outlaws does too. I'll be saving most of my Outlaws coverage for another episode, but they both do a really good job of exploring just the lawless part of the galaxy through through the kind of like pirates and like how the scum and villainy in the Outer Rim thrive and stuff, and like how the New Republic has kind of affected that, like towards the end of the war, but also after the war with like the events of the Mandalorian. I'd love to see kind of build up of that. Also, more seeding of the First Order, because it's we still need a little bit of that, and I always love the kind of like connective tissue and shit. But yeah, there are so many directions that this series can go, and I genuinely like, as much as I would have liked an epilogue, seeing where all the characters are going to end up to put like a neat little bow on it. I really love that the show ends with this kind of euphoric feeling of, you know, to carry the meta thing all the way through, because we said this back when we covered the trailer. The choice of At Attin and the whole like suburbia setting, it was very much kind of intended to communicate a meta feeling of, these are kids, almost like this is like kids from the real world going on their own Star Wars adventure, and there's a whole kind of like conflict with Wim of, does he just grow up and accept his mundane existence on At Attin, becoming a supervisor or an analyst or whatever, or does he like chase after this dream of essentially being in Star Wars, and despite all the danger that brings? And what I kind of and I love that final shot, because that shot basically goes, yes, you can still embrace Star Wars and love Star Wars even as you head into adulthood. So it's the show ends with this kind of euphoric feeling that's both a love letter to what it was like to be a kid loving Star Wars, but also how you don't have to cut Star Wars out of your life as you get older. You can embrace it in different ways. You know, like Wim started being a loving Jedi and being a Jedi fanboy, but he kind of ends like looking at the X-Wings the way he looked at like the Jedi stories, and he's like, oh, actually, I kind of feel like I want to do this now. It has this real, like, I feel like the show, kind of like The Last Jedi as well, is this great kind of tribute to Star Wars fandom and what it was like to grow up with Star Wars in your life. And I think I can sum it up perfectly with like what Star Wars kids always like to say about something, which is, it's wizard.
It is wizard. My things just off the top of my head I'd like to see is, I would like to see how season 1 was them exploring the galaxy, but them not really being in control, them being new to it. I would like to see them explore the galaxy more, but like on their own, be the ones being the true captains of the ship and exploring the galaxy and helping some people, or encountering pirates or new adversaries and finding new treasures. That I would love to see. I would like to see characters like Pocket return. I would like to see different planets and different characters come back and potentially have a bigger role. I obviously want to see more with Jod and see where he brings, and see how it would react to him being back with the kids, and what that's going to be like, and his slow potential redemption into the scoundrel with the heart of gold that we all feel he could still be. I also just want maybe a whole episode or something of them, the kids just on At Attin being kids, but seeing it with the four of them now as an established friend group, and just, you know, just stupid shit like study montage, or them trying to help Neil ask out the one girl.
Let's see like a whole episode of them playing slap ball. That
exactly. Slap ball tournament. I you know, that joke I pitched last episode of Neil, like whoever the villain of the week is, just like boom, slap ball, like just Peter Quill challenging Rowan into a dance off. I want that to just be the finale or the ending scene of one episode.
Don't tease me with a good time, Andrew. That sounds
good. And I
good.
do think, because this is how Star Wars seasons work, season 1 is genuinely a bit more restrained, and then season 2, we start to get a bit more of the cameos and the wider connections of the galaxy. I do think,
they've got to meet Baby Yoda.
That's your perfect opportunity for a Carson Teva. But something I would like to see is them actually explore a Jedi temple, and you could introduce a Jedi, whether it be like a Cal Kestis or an Ahsoka or someone like, or even a Sabine, someone like that. And that's maybe how you get your Jason Syndulla connection.
I love
or a character we've never seen before. I would love to see that, and just to get to see Wim's reaction to actually seeing a Jedi temple would be really cool.
Perfect opportunity to recast Luke Skywalker and have Luke meet those kids. That would be fantastic.
What are you talking about? Deep fakes. That's what we want.
We want, like, You made me just think about something about the kids being captain of their own ship. I'd love the thought of them getting stuck with like a New Republic bureaucrat who's really bossy and tells them what to do. But then the action starts and he's just a complete coward. Like, and the kids just have to sort of wrest control of the ship away from him, and him just protests in the corner, kind of like the lawyer from like Jurassic Park. That
Or
kind
like
of energy.
Rampart in season 3 of the Bad Batch.
Yes, we need a New Republic version of
Again,
Rampart. That would be
I
hilarious.
think there's so much you can do with future seasons, and I think Watson Ford know that as well, and they've already talked about they have ideas of where they want the show to go. So I'm just saying, Star Wars Celebration, please. We're just 2 months away and change. Just give us the announcement. I think you can do some great stuff with this, and
give us
these
Skeleton Crew
characters are
season
so
2.
fun. My final thoughts on Skeleton Crew is this is just, again, I went in with moderate expectations because this show started at a weird time for me as a Star Wars fan, where with the way the Acolyte kind of ended and was canceled, and I just felt for the first time in ages very disconnected from Star Wars, where I didn't like the way things were looking in the future, and I didn't like how it seemed like the worst parts of discourse and fandom won out. Whether or not Disney is going to say that that's the case or not, it certainly felt like it at that point. And I just felt, I don't know if I want, deepfake Luke and, Grogu and all that shit to just be all we get for Star Wars right now. And I was championing this show a year plus before it came out. You can go back and watch some of our earliest episodes. I did a video essay on it, just talking about do not sleep on Skeleton Crew, because the concept of Amblin in space or Stranger Things in space really, really worked for me. And I love a good coming of age story. I was fucking right. I knew right away that this was good. By episode 4, I was like, this show is freaking fantastic. And there was that stretch of like episode 4, 5, 6, and then 8 of like continuously topping my favorite episodes of the show.
Oh, yeah.
This to me is number 2 for me, behind Andor, for live action Star Wars shows. I will talk more about it next week when we do our best of 2024. And it just, like I said, for it to come out at that point and for it to single-handedly within one episode reinvigorate my love for this franchise, there are so many moments where it felt like this was the childlike wonder of Star Wars and experiencing Star Wars done through the perception of a child, and it worked so well. There are so many points, specific for me, the ending scene of episode 6, and so many moments in the finale of like that just felt like Star Wars like we had not seen since the original trilogy. Like it had that kind of magic to it. And I just thought this was a really special show. I think it connected with a lot of people. I loved these characters so much. Every single one of them. And I just, again, we've been burned before. I think they know that they have a gold mine just on their lap right here.
Literally a gold mine. A planet full of credits.
A planet full of credits. So I think we're getting a season 2, and like I said, this has the potential to be the tentpole franchise for the Star Wars franchise for the next several years. This can be like the next big streaming giant that is like our Clone Wars or our Rebels, and like that generation of fans for the next several years. And I think it was just, I think a lot of people kind of had the same thing of they didn't know what to expect, and it ended up becoming one of their favorite Star Wars things that they've seen in quite some time. And that was definitely the case for me. Your big picture thoughts as we wrap things up and we conclude our Skeleton Crew coverage here. Very late, but here we go.
Yeah, so so I'm gonna echo a lot of what you said, really, with like a lot of the kind of like feeling and the way it captured a lot of the stuff of the original trilogy. I feel like I covered some of my overall thoughts with like how I said about Wynn's journey and stuff, and how that reflected the kind of euphoric, warm-hearted message the show had about, embracing adventure and how, you know, growing up doesn't mean like losing those whimsical parts of yourself, and how there's like such real precious things to hold on to from childhood, like that. I loved the journey that these kids went on. I was so taken by surprise with how much this show actually like was really, really good. I was expecting it to be decent, not to be like nearly as good as it turned out to be, because you know, obviously you hear all the shows announced, you think, you know, Andor, that sounds interesting. Ahsoka, hell yes. Obi-Wan, hell yes. Book of Boba Fett, all the expected stuff. And then there's this show about like kids in space, and you're like,
the real unknown.
That could be kind of fun. And then it turns out that, oh yeah, actually, with a really like specific vision at the helm from John Watts and Christopher Ford, and like the bevy of talent they got: Bryce Dallas Howard, Isaac Chung, Jake Schreers, David Lowery, the Daniels, the kind of people who worked on this show, directed these episodes, helped shepherd these characters through their chaotic little odyssey through the galaxy. It's great. And I love that the show was able to make so many people feel like kids again in a way, and bring a kind of like magic and whimsy to Star Wars that, you know, as much as we love that kind of the stuff like Andor and like some of the kind of, and the Obi-Wan show that get dark and gritty and really dig into like the psychology of these characters, there's something to be said about like a show that really embraces the whimsy and embraces the kind of like togetherness and this, and like the kind of like warm-hearted adventurous feeling that we often get from Star Wars and crave, just like Luke Skywalker. We had a whole series about a bunch of little Luke Skywalkers essentially getting that rush of going off into the galaxy and getting a crazy, dangerous, unexpected, but overall really fulfilling adventure. And I can't say enough good things about this show.
As a sucker for coming of age stories, this definitely did the trick. And I can't wait for more. So Lucasfilm, bring it on. We're waiting. So that does it for our final recap for Skeleton Crew Season 1 here on For the Republic. Again, very belated, but here we are. If you enjoyed this, you can go back and check out our other Skeleton Crew recaps. We did them in batches of 2, so you can check those out at your own leisure. And if you're new here, hi. We talk about Star Wars a lot. We will hopefully be going back on our rewatch of the Clone Wars very soon and kind of booting that back up again before Andor Season 2 starts, and finally get back into the swing of things with that. And then we also, even though it is almost March, we'll be talking about our favorite Star Wars stories from last year. So the shows, the books, the games, everything that came out last year will be in contention for our lists. You can check that out. That's going to be the next episode we shoot. Maybe later this week, maybe next week. We'll see. And that book right there might feature on one of our lists.
I'm trying to make sure I finish reading it. I'm trying to make sure I finish this before we get to that episode.
Me too. So Donovan, where can everyone find you before we head out today?
So you can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead. TikTok, you can find me at Donovan McComish. Instagram at Donovan_McComish. That's the same handle for my threads. You can also find me on Blue Sky at DonovanMcComish.bsky.social. I am also a question writer for Star Wars Epic Confrontations, where the best of the best in Star Wars fandom like come together to hash it out over who knows the most trivia. We got some exciting stuff coming up this year. I have also written a fan story for Star Wars that I published back in 2022 as part of SWEF. That was a whole thing. It's about a clone trooper called Blister who deserts the newly christened Empire after the events of Order 66, and 5 years after Revenge of the Sith finds his quiet life on the Outer Rim world of Kivo disturbed by the arrival of a Jedi survivor named Shar Kun. So if you like Star Wars and PTSD and post-traumatic pain, basically, in your stories about Star Wars, then yeah, definitely check it out. I had a lot of fun writing it.
Absolutely. As for myself, you can find me all socials: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Starlight Andrew. You can follow me on Blue Sky, starlightandrew.bsky.social. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod, and on Blue Sky For the Republic Pod.bsky.social. Subscribe to our YouTube. We are eking very close to that 100 subscriber mark. When we get to that point, we will have some fun things planned. I'm finally going to watch the Ewok movies for the first time, so we're going to do that. And some fun stuff like that. So get us close. Maybe, hopefully, we can get there because we are also eking towards our 100th episode of For the Republic. So that would be kind of cool to, get to 100 before we hit 100. That would be pretty sweet. So maybe work that out. Also, recently relaunched my movie blog, the starlightjournal.blog. I put out a review of Captain America Brave New World. I also put out my January film journal. I am working this week on my best of 2024 list. So hopefully expect that by maybe the end of the week, maybe sometime next week. I'm hoping to get it out before the Oscars, but we shall see. I'm going to try to get an article out every week or two. We'll see how long I can keep it going for, but I want to really dedicate myself to it this time. So check that out. And I got some fun stuff coming up soon. So that's it for today. Look forward to our best of 2024 episode coming out next time, and to get back into Clone Wars very, very soon. But until next time, see you guys later, and may the Force be with you always.